A lot of key people driving by your house every day.
I know. I probably do better than that billboard over on Van Duzy Street.
Oh, much better than that one. Your yard is much. I'd much rather have a sign on your yard than on that billboard on Van Duzy Street.
What I should do is we should have the city change things around a little bit for zoning, and I can have a billboard out there, and then I could just like people put the windmills up.
Yeah, a small billboard, maybe not a.
That would be very cool. Hey, speaking of which, did you see the front page of the paper today?
No, I read it online now, and a lot of times I never see the actual paper. I know that's heresy, but I just look at what's online.
It just kind of shows you how everybody does do everything online. It seemed like such old news, even though it was just yesterday. But when you looked in the headline in the news that the Balloon Boy is a hoax. But it's like we've all known that for 24 hours, so it just seems so long ago.
I'm surprised they covered Balloon Boy because that's one of those, that's beneath me type, things aren't covered in real time.
Well, they are covered in real time is the problem. They're not covered in real time in the newspaper.
Yeah.
And the internet is just, so amazing.
And I think...
I had it up, too, but...
Now more than ever. I mean, one of the jobs of the assignment editor or the person in the slot, as they call them in a newsroom, is to just be... is to be just like a trout fisherman right in the middle of the river. The river being the flow of information, and right in the water, not on the sidelines casting a hook in, but right in the middle of it. And that's what the assignment editor or managing editor needs to be, and that means you have to have around you all of these sources of news in today's world. And I've been in the Times newsroom, and it's quieter than the Flower Memorial Library, and the lighting is all subdued. It's like it's like one of those hookah lounges or something. It's just not like the old newsroom in the movie Front Page.
What's funny you should say it's like a hookah lounge, because back in the 80s, after hours, well, I guess we shouldn't go there.
Is that a right analogy? Is that sort of a just...
I guess it is.
Yeah, I didn't mean to suggest that they're doing anything illegal or anything. I'm just saying it's that subdued. And I like the old newsroom where you've got, all the monitors for all the networks, and you got piles of papers on there and everything else, and you're just in a frenzy of stuff trying to cover it.
You're looking for the years somewhere between when Lou Grant was running the newspaper, and that was on the Lou Grant at the Mary Tyler Moore Show, and when Peter Brady was Scoop Brady, the reporter that had the press pass in his hat. That was the day. You wanted someone to actually yell, "Stop the presses."
Yeah, that's what I want. And I want to have a Bulldog edition, and I want to have all these other things going on, and we just don't have it anymore. And everything's just sort of, can't watch the Balloon Boy. I got to go to the Y and get on the treadmill or something. You can't do that. You got to be like in the flow all the time. And that's what these cable nuts are doing, and for better or worse. I mean, that Balloon Boy thing captivated everybody on Thursday, and granted, it turned out to be kind of stupid, and maybe it speaks to the...
Standing on public square, a little boy with a papers going, "Get your copy," so people are running over to get their copy to see what...
Right, read all about it, Balloon Boy, all that stuff. Yeah. Well, remember the guy that used to do that? What the heck was his name? I used to see him down there. They always said he couldn't read, and that the Times would give him a headline to bark out. They would just tell him something, and he'd go out and do it. But that the guy didn't know how to read. That was always the story on that fella. And that went on for years. And I guess it's maybe the times we live in or something, but I really long for that style of news people. And you want to see all the news people hanging out at some bar afterwards with the politicians, with big stogies in their mouth and fedoras and all that stuff. Yeah, that was the old days.
Yep, but instead you've probably got like some guys that are running internet out inline skating somewhere and having a power drink, or having a... Yeah,
they're sitting there discussing which brand of tofu to buy or something.
Well, they're just they just went through the park on their skateboard or their rollerblades, and they're stopping by to have maybe a Jägermeister and Monster or whatever, one of those Jaeger...
Oh, Jaeger bomb. Yeah, they probably aren't doing that.
That's more of the new generation. That's
it's generational, yeah, and I'd be the first one to admit I'm a bit of a fossil on all of that.
But it's funny that the TV stations seem to be able to keep somewhat current on it.
Yeah, but did they do anything on Balloon Boy?
Sure, it was all over like CNN and Fox.
Oh, yeah, on those networks, yeah. All over to the point of being ridiculous, and they were embarrassed by it, of course.
Well, I stopped what I was doing, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, it was fascinating.
Yeah, we stood right there, and we just watched the TV until when you started, every time you think it was coming down, you'd stop again. And then when you saw I remember looking, and there's no way...
amazing coverage of a balloon. I've never seen that.
It was interesting. But nobody got hurt, but boy, how things forget. You know what they should get?
Well, it's amazing to me, the photography that they had on it, those helicopters.
Yeah, all that money wasted.
Yeah, well...
It was like watching the O.J. chase.
Was it wasted? It entertained us. But O.J. had a little more news value to it in that O.J. at least had murdered 2 people, and he was a famous person, and there was some value to that chase.
Yeah, but I tell you, if there'd been a little kid in that, and it came slamming down, and the kid had died, that would have been the biggest news story of the year.
Well, fortunately, it didn't happen that way.
I know. I guess we should be happy it didn't, but that's what the news hold on was. Is you're almost watching a train wreck. You were going to watch a train wreck in live TV, and that's pretty much it. And the internet was covered. I jumped on, online, Newsjunky and all the internet things. They were all over it too. So it was a radical news thing. But I think that just kind of defines on how outdated the paper is. Because it was like I brought the paper in first thing this morning, and it's like, as early as the paper is now, it's 24 hours ago news. It's just very, very strange. It's hard to subscribe.
Did they have anything about Balloon Boy on Friday?
Well, they had a paper on Sunday. They didn't have.
No, I didn't know if Balloon Boy got... I don't know. Well...
Sunday was the daybreaker, but they would have had to hold the paper off until, first thing in the morning. It's a day behind now instead of being an afternoon paper. But that's the way things roll.
Yeah, I know. It's just, but you hate to see that whole culture of newspapers go, because I think there is a valuable side to it all. It's just that I don't know what kind of business model works.
Well, I don't know either, but it's definitely got to be advertise-driven. It can't be subscription-driven. At 75 cents a paper right now, there's no way I'm going to resubscribe for a year when totals are. I'm going to get up until, mid next year, but I'm just not going to do it again.
Okay.
It's going to be too much. You can't pay for paper like that. Everyone else in the world is encouraged.
Well, now wait a minute. Let's look at what we're buying. And I'm not here to be a shill for the Johnsons or anything like that, but you're talking about 75 cents, 3 quarters that you're putting down. Now, if you bought a Hershey bar, it'd be $1. If you bought cigarettes, that'd be about the equivalent of 2 cigarettes. There's any number of things.
How much is a Sunday paper now? Is that $1.50?
2 1/4.
2 1/4.
Yeah, but what do you? I mean, again, on your way to buy the Sunday paper and you buy a latte for $4. I mean, all things are relative in terms of do you get 75 cents worth of enjoyment out of it? And to me,
honestly, there's some days when we don't even open it. I hate to say that. There's some days just...
Well, I'm as guilty as the next person. I mean, I will check and see what their headlines are online, and I check Newsjunky, and I read other papers and things. I will grant you I'm not a...
Well, let's put here comparison right now. I don't know what the new rates are, but if you just did the 75 day and the $1.50 as though you just paid for it, that comes up to $350 a year. I not too long ago subscribed for life for that same amount to XM. So I'm a life subscriber to XM. Now I'm paying for a media, but I'm paying for a media that doesn't have any advertising.
Yeah, but you're assuming XM will last your lifetime.
Well, you're correct, but I'm going to have it until it's gone, so I've already got 2 years into it. In this next year, I break even.
Right, no doubt about it. But you know what's going to happen there, and we've seen that with when these companies go out and sell life memberships, it gives them an infusion of cash now, but long term, it really destroys their business model. Because
it does, except for when it's up and running and everything's paid.
I know, like the Northside Leagues had that problem. Everybody got these lifetime memberships for $100 years ago. Well, sure, $100 isn't that much money, so you get that. But there's no recurring investment in the organization, and the same thing with XM or Sirius when you get a lifetime membership. Just a thought. Just
thought. The thing is, if the Times had a lifetime membership,
I don't want a lifetime membership to that. I'm just saying that for 75 cents, I mean, you can spend more than that to get far less gratification. I mean, buy like a Haagen-Dazs chocolate covered ice cream bar. See what you pay. It's like $1.89. And how long does that?
It's possible to go buy a can of Coke for 75 cents out of a machine right now.
Right.
One is worth more to you.
I don't know. It depends on what you're doing. If you like thumbing through it, it's fine.
Well, I've always had it. It's been.
I mean, I'm the first one to sit there and question the news judgment of some of the people in charge of these organizations. But on the other hand, I don't sit there and pray at night for their demise in terms of an institution. And I don't think 75 cents is that much money.
I don't either, but I think going to I've just paid by the year, and didn't.
Especially if you got some of that counterfeit money they got up in Carthage, you could use that.
He is kicking in a little bit, but I'm going to let you go on that note.
All right, thanks a lot.
Bye bye. Have a great day.
All right.